Hello, lords and ladies. Today we're going to talk about the origins of feudalism, which is a social and a political system that emerges in Western Europe after the fall of Rome due to a lack of political unity. So today's objectives have you needing to understand the obligations that each feudal class had to all of the other classes in the structure. And you're going to learn a lot of new terms today, specifically fealty, feudalism, fief, knights, serfs, vassal. All of these terms are things that you're going to need to be able to know and recognize and explain what they mean. So we will seek to meet that goal in this little presentation. Okay, in terms of how feudalism is going to originate, we really have to look at what happens in the aftermath of the fall of Rome. So we talked yesterday about the Viking, Magyar, and Muslim invasions. What happened because of all this chaos and these invasions is that kings could not defend their land, so the noblemen had to find a way to defend themselves. So they built castles where all of the people that lived on their manors could come for defense, and they hired knights to help protect them. In exchange, the knights were given a fief, a grant of land, so a piece of land in order to serve. He then becomes a vassal. The knight becomes a vassal to the noble lord. So a vassal is a lesser lord. Out of this obligation, the feudal system is born. So the king in this structure has very little power. Okay, to look at the actual structure, we want to see who's at the top. Now, officially the king is at the top. However, he does not have much power. He is dependent upon the lords to hire the knights that he can call up. So really, the people with the power here are the lords, who are the ones who have the land to grant to the knights. But the lords got their land from the king. So, all of them do depend on each other, but he is the top of the society. The knights defend everyone, and the peasants, the serfs are tied to the land, peasants are free, and the townspeople all help to provide the food and the things that everyone else needs. So we're going to actually watch a clip. You have a diagram on the next page of your notes that you're going to fill in terms of what the obligations are between each of these classes from one to the other. So as you're watching it, what I would like you to do, okay, because it does confuse people sometimes that there are kings but they have no power. So what I want you to do is to take notes from the video clip that follows, and it will help you fill in your graphic organizer.
Medieval way of known as feudalism is based on the ownership of land, and feudal social classes reflected how much land people own. Royalty, like kings and queens, were in the highest class. After came the lords, such as dukes and earls. They were followed by the knights, who were followed by craftsmen, who were by the serfs, who worked the land. Under feudal systems, people of lower classes showed their respect to upper class by serving them, and for their service they received reward. For example, the lord of a great castle might serve his king by buying knights and soldiers for a war. To show appreciation for this service, the king reward the lord with the gift of land, usually in the manor, which is an important unit of territory in feudal society. A man usually came complete large house like this, and at least one village along with all the serfs who lived in it. Crops grown on land supplied the lord with his income, and the more he had, the richer he became. The serfs belonged to the men never got rich. They were the feudal society because they owned no land. Serfs were not allowed to move out from a manor without the Lord's permission, because his wealth depended on the land they supplied. The Lord rewarded his serfs for the service of their labor by giving a place to live, a share of the crops they raised, and protection during dangerous times. Because serfs owned no land, they had nothing to pass down one generation to the next. Their families always remained poor. In their villages, they were not even allowed to grow their own grain into flour for bread. Instead, they had to pay around at the Lord mill. In feudal society, even though serfs produced near all food, did most of the hard labor, and were the largest class of people, they had few rights and all opportunity for education. As a result, it was near impossible for them to rise the poverty that ruled their lives. While serfs provided the labor on great feudal estates, knights were highly valued for their military skill, so there were always quite a few of them on hand at a camp. Knights were professional warriors who fought on horseback. They were very different from the ordinary soldiers of that time because they came from the family, and they were much better trained. Training for knighthood began 8 years of age when a boy was sent to a camp to become age, a student servant of an experienced knight. His training went on for many years, and it wasn't just a fight. It was all such things as leadership, reading, singing, chess, and the art of falconry. Special contests called tournaments often held so that knights and those learning to be knights could practice the skills they needed for combat. These were popular entertainment in medieval times, but they were dangerous, and knights were often severely injured participating in them. Because knights came from well-to-do families and were so valued for their skills, they had a very high position in feudal society, just below the noble lords. That was why, to show them respect, were always addressed. A noble lord would often reward a knight for his courage with the gift of manor lands and the income divided. So on a lord's great estate, it was not uncommon to find knights living in many of the manor houses.
So as you can see from the video clip, the knights have obligations to the lords and to the peasants and the serfs, because they provide protection for all of these people, and in exchange they receive a grant of land. Knights had to be very skilled, they had to practice chivalry, they had to be skilled in their arts, and they protected the lord who owned the castle, and this is where all of the feudal people lived. So in terms of what the society looks like, just as kind of a wrapping it up so that we know we understand, feudal society is based on land ownership. So it's very, very unique in that each class is obligated to help out the others. And the people who have the power get that power from the fact that they own the land. In this structure, your social status is determined by birth, so you have limited social mobility. And the only reason feudalism really emerged during this time is because there was a weak central government. There was a complete lack of order and chaos ensued. So the nobles had to find a way to protect themselves. I will see you tomorrow and we'll talk about it more.